Hello, people, and welcome back. Sorry for the delay. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but welcome back to TBD Sports with all these fun people and a guest. Welcome, Mr. Burkhart. Mr.
Hello.
Burkhart, woo! He's our
All right.
band director, except for Augustino, because he's in orchestra like a nerd. And
Not anymore, but
oh yeah, that's right. He was in orchestra. He's not even good enough for orchestra anymore.
Oh, he's a quitter nerd.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's a
those are the
quitter.
worst.
That's the worst.
Oh.
So, so,
Couldn't even hang with nerds.
so yeah,
that's just
so
the computer science, so different group of nerds.
right. So, to Mr. Burkhart, you want to tell us about yourself, your sports self, obviously.
Yeah. So this I don't know if this podcast is supposed to be uplifting and fun, but it's about to get real dark. When I was a kid, when I was a young kid, I used to play basketball constantly. Like I read books about shooting. Um, I even took like a couple lessons of sorts. It was like I'm 9 years old on the basketball court, and I'm trying to imagine this arc, this imaginary arc that the ball would follow and then fall in the hoop. Um, and so I worked hard and I played in like little kid leagues or whatnot. Um, I fouled out of one game, which I didn't know you could foul out of little kid leagues.
Actually, I've done the same, so I can't confirm.
Yeah, that was fun. And then I tried out for the sixth grade basketball team, and I was first cut. Um, and I was like, well, I think sports are not for me. And that's it. And I went a different direction. Now I continued to play basketball and be obsessed with basketball and love basketball. And I used to read about all sports, and I still catch up on sport. Like I've read multiple baseball books, um, different things. I played intramural basketball at IU, so played in some rec leagues. One one time, one season I only played one game because I injured my ankle. So I showed up the next game with a blazer and pretended to be the coach.
Smooth. Good move. Good move.
Yeah, I got kicked out because I threw my jacket on the floor after a foul.
Bobby Knight. As
Yeah.
long as it's not a chair.
Yeah, I'll tell you
Yeah.
the most sincere part of my sports life that I enjoy is my job as a band director. I've gotten to be a part of so many sports. I've performed at Pacer games. I've never paid to go to an IU basketball game in my entire life, and
Yes,
I've been
sir.
to probably 100.
Yeah.
I've unfortunately been to many IU football games. It's too bad that I didn't go to any this year, but I always enjoy that part of being a band director, getting to live with sports a little bit.
Indeed. Music and sports are very much connected.
Mhm.
But yeah, so obviously, if you couldn't tell, today is going to be a basketball day because of Mr. Burkhart. But real quick, I think we have to acknowledge the Steelers lost to the football team. I don't know
Oh my
how.
God.
I don't know how they did it,
Oh, how many times you guys gonna bring this up?
but Alex Smith and the Washington
Hating it.
football team beat the undefeated Steelers on Tuesday. That's it. That's it. Obligatory Steelers meme. There you go. There it is. We can talk about it another day. But
Wait, can I get a take on this real fast?
oh yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, of
Go
course.
for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have strong feelings against the Steelers. I have since I was 13 years old. When in the 1995 AFC Championship game they cheated to beat the Colts.
It's always
I
against
still
the
say
Colts.
he was out of bounds. He was out of bounds when he got the touchdown. Um, it still offends me. You know, what is that? Yeah, 25 years later, I'm still offended by that play. So forget them; they're the worst.
People could
People
be
just love
deeply
cheating
wounded
against
by
the Colts.
sports.
It's like
Yep.
if you face the Colts, you gotta find a way to just.
It's a
They
compliment.
scared. They
It's a
scared.
compliment.
It's a completely different sport.
All right, so back to Mr. Burkhart though. So you kind of talked about how like your connection to sports, but I mean, we gotta ask, like, who's your team, who's your players, like, and We'll wrap it up with your favorite NBA like memory or moment.
So I think most people would agree with this. As I grew up, I kind of went with whatever my family was into. But the difference between me and my family is I took it to the next level of obsessive fandom. So my dad used to go to Pacer games when they were in the ABA. Like he went to when they were winning the finals in the ABA in the 70s, he was at some of those games. And I picked that up. And I was a kid during the Pacers golden age in the 90s when Reggie Miller was either winning or not winning against the Knicks. And when we go back to the favorite basketball moment, like it's very specific to that 90s Pacers team.
I have a feeling I know what it is by that statement.
You'll actually be surprised, but we'll come back.
Okay.
So it was IU basketball, Pacers basketball, and I've been like to the point where some friendships have been strained. I'm a pretty passionate homer. Like if you live here, this is the team you cheer for.
That's fair.
Unless you were born somewhere else. If you were born somewhere else, cool, that's fine. But like, you guys know Gabe Brown?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, his whole Patriots thing is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. It's just unacceptable. It's like, no, this is where you live. Support your team.
Especially not the Patriots.
I literally remember when Deflategate and when Deflategate happened, and he still showed up all in his Patriots gear. I think he was. Oh man. But yeah.
Yeah, and when I started working at Lincoln and then Pike, the thing I noticed is like, well, over the years, Indianapolis has had a lot of people move into the city from the Chicagoland area. So like, you see tons of Bulls jersey, and I was like, what is up with this absolute horridness? Don't tell me you're Derrick Rose fans. Like, get out with that weak sauce. He's the worst. Yeah, we're not at the hot takes section of the thing yet.
It's okay. We love to spike up a conversation here. So
yeah, because that's not my hottest take. I got a lot.
Oh boy.
The other question you had was most. One of the it was like what favorite sports memory, right?
Yeah, one of them was memory and your favorite player.
Oh, okay. So let's do the memory one. A lot of people think of 8.9 seconds as like
That's
one
what
of the
I
great
thought you were
times, and
gonna
it
talk
was. And it was awesome. My favorite is actually a little bit more controversial. It's Bulls Pacers. I think it's a 98 Eastern Conference Finals. In a play previous that doesn't get nearly as much press, and you don't see it in the Last Dance. In a play previous, Jordan pushed off on Reggie Miller and then got a bucket. No foul, no call, blah, blah, blah. Then the next play, Pacers take it out from the out of bounds line, kind of up to the side. That they're in their half court, and Reggie literally just pushes Jordan, like full push, and there was no foul call. And then he caught the ball and he made it.
90s basketball was wild.
I jumped up and cheered for such a long time. Like my mom's like, calm down. They'll probably call because when you're a small market team, you think the refs are out to get you. So right. I thought, they're going to call a foul on Reggie. They're going to call, and they didn't. And I was like, that's it. We're here. We're making it to the finals. And then we lost in Game 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, imagine the Pacers have come so close so many times. I mean, it's kind of sad. Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
I feel bad that they have to run it too. Literally, the dynasty that are the Bulls, and then right when we come back, boom, the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq.
The Lakers thing was tough because I remember watching those finals and thinking because they won a couple games. Like they were the only Eastern Conference team that played them well at all. But there was one of those games, Kobe just took over Reggie and like, yeah, this is it. We can't do this. And they won like a game later. My favorite player of all time might be a little bit of a surprise. There's a lot of Pacers I love. There's a particularly wonderful moment being in charge of the Pike Pep Band where Dale Davis's son was playing a game with Center Grove, and Dale Davis was at the game.
That's cool.
And I made the athletic directors bring him down so I could meet him. And so I have a couple of pictures with him. He looked annoyed. I was joyous. 2 weeks. So I love Dale Davis. I liked any of those guys, especially big guys, who were just willing to do anything to make their team better. And so with that, my favorite all-time player is actually Kevin Garnett.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So not even a Pacers player.
No.
I thought you were gonna, when you were talking about Pacers and big men, I was like, oh, Rick Smits, dude.
Nah, he's too soft.
Too soft.
I don't want to. Don't get me on the aggregate. Too soft. Rick Smits, Aaron Burkhart. No. But it's not my choice.
It's okay. So is Miles.
Kevin Garnett was so tireless. And to the point when in 2008, when he went to the Celtics, I became a Celtics fan. Like I cheered for that team. In 2004, when the Minnesota Timberwolves took the Lakers, I think they took them to 7 games. It was either 6 or 7 in the Western Conference Finals. I was watching that game obsessively. It was the only time in my entire life I've ever cheered for Latrell Sprewell on purpose. Yeah, big Kevin Garnett fan. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Foster, who played 10 seasons with the Pacers. He was one of those side guys, just extra hustle guys. I loved him. I got to meet him once.
back in the day.
He had a particularly heinous hard foul on, I believe it was Derrick Rose, actually. Somewhere in the mid 2000s, like a first round playoff game. Derrick Rose goes up, Foster just hacks him to the ground. Glorious.
Hey man, you gotta play physical basketball. That's the best basketball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously, and I just wanted to touch, like, I agree with you. Kevin Garnett is also one of my favorite players, and he is the main reason that I even ever cheered for the Timberwolves, who are just atrocious as a franchise as a whole. But Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Him and Isaiah Ryder are 2 of my favorite players.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I was also a big Sam Cassell guy. I know those are like kind of specific, but those were my guys. Those highlights they were a fun team to watch. But But yeah, so let's talk about current stuff though, because I think we gotta address the elephant in the room, or James Harden, depending on what you want to call him.
Is that a James Harden fat joke?
Yeah, it is. It's a James Harden fat joke. Yeah. He has made some interesting choices recently. Obviously, there were a lot of rumors, and now there are more rumors. And now we keep seeing pictures of him at clubs and parties and not at practice. So my first question here, and this is open to anyone on the floor, is why? I mean, what do you take of that? Like, what do you get from that?
The main thing that I get from that is that James Harden, I don't really think that he wants to stay with the Rockets, honestly. I mean, everybody's heard. It's been all over the news. Like, he wants to go to the Knicks. He wants to play with Kevin Durant, like, and Kyrie Irving. Like, I mean, with the direction that the Rockets have taken in the past couple of weeks, with like so many other key staff leaving, I don't understand why James Harden would really have that much incentive to even stay there. When he puts he's like the cornerstone of the Rockets year after year, and they're visibly getting worse and worse.
I think it's because of him. It might be because of him. James Harden might be the problem. You want to know my takeaway from this? James Harden has been the problem for a long time. I feel like a lot of people like to, it's like, oh, it's Chris Paul's fault. Oh, it's Russell Westbrook's fault. Oh, it's blah, blah, blah's fault. It's Mike D'Antoni's fault. You know who's the factor? They change all this stuff, and there's still a problem. It's Harden.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
It has to be Harden, right? Like, who? Tyson Chandler? No.
Yeah, I mean, like when you have when you have your biggest player just straight up not even caring about the team during a pandemic. I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on, man. Like, it
Yeah.
shows that's a
It's a
big
lack of
problem. That's a
maturity.
really big problem. Yeah.
Lack of professionalism, lack of maturity, and that's coming from a 17-year-old. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That'd be awesome if he caught wind of this.
But James, bro, we gotta talk, bro. You got a lot of work to do on that whole character thing. So I want to know Marcus, because I know Marcus is the kind of guy that really can harp on players for any sort of discrepancy in their work ethic. So I'm really curious to know what your thoughts on this, Marcus.
Well, I am kind of troubled about the fact that he's not showing up to practice, that he's just not as his grind. I'm also worried about because they acquired John Wall, and he said himself, like, oh, don't worry, James Harden's not going to leave. I came for him, you know? And now Harden's, like you
Still
said,
not
at
there.
club, not there, not practicing. But I wonder what the Rockets are going to do. It's going to be interesting on how the Rockets deal with this. If they're going to have to end up trading for him. What would teams give up for James Harden? Like, if we talk about the Sixers, like, would you put Ben Simmons in there maybe?
You'd have to. I think if you were the Sixers, Ben Simmons would. It's not a question. You have to give up You know the Sixers aren't going to give up Embiid. You know they're not going to give up Embiid. It has to be Simmons, and you might have to give. I know they just got him, but Seth Curry would be another player you might see go. Especially, I mean, if you're going to lose a shooter like James Harden, you might want to get a shooter like Seth Curry. I know he's not putting up 35 points a night, but he's got a crazy good shooting percentage from three,
Oh, yeah.
as good as his brother.
Almost 50%.
Yeah.
Really
So
good.
there's a lot of players on the Sixers. I mean, you got Tobias Harris is still around. I think Al Horford, if I'm not mistaken, is still technically on the Sixers. I know he's an old man.
No, he's a Thunder.
Oh,
right
he
now.
got moved to the Thunder? Okay.
Oh yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got a lot of other guys on the Sixers that you could, but I just don't think the Sixers can afford to give up too many pieces. Like, you're already struggling to make deep playoff runs because of your depth, and you give up more depth for a guy like James Harden. And you don't even know if he's going to want to play for you. I don't know.
Not just that. For example, talk about Seth Curry. Seth Curry shot 44% from behind the arc, while James Harden only shot 35%.
Because James Harden just chucks them up.
He shoots 48 shots a game, and that's I just looked that up, sarcasm, but it's probably close to correct.
No,
My
you're
other
probably
concern
right.
is this: the best trade-off. So here's a trade that was rumored around a little bit. I don't think it has legs, but it's a 3-team deal involving the Sixers, the Nuggets, and the Rockets. And so in that, Michael Porter Jr. Would go to the Rockets, I believe. Ben Simmons would go to the Rockets. I think the Nuggets would get back maybe a couple rotation players. I don't remember the logistics. But here's what I get stuck on. You said it. You said it perfectly, Jaron. It's James Harden's fault. Okay, look. Is Dwight Howard the biggest dweeb in the history of the NBA? Yes. Yes, it's between him, Gilbert Arenas, and whatever kid hasn't been drafted yet. But okay, so fine, he's gone, whatever. And then you chase away Chris Paul. Look, it's not like Chris Paul was the nicest to get along guy ever. There's lots of record of that. But he's a consummate professional basketball player who knows what he's doing.
And always has been.
Yeah, if he's like, I can't win a championship here, I gotta go, and he's stuck with Blake Goofy Griffin for 6 years, no, it's James Harden. And so James Harden on a team with Joel Embiid, the reason that Joel Embiid isn't even better is because you need to feed your big man. You need to give that boy the ball deep in the paint and let him go to work. I know it's old school, but it works. He's a behemoth, man.
He is.
He's 7'1".
Yeah.
He's basically Shaq with like maybe a little better trim. I don't know.
Oh, and a much better shot too. He can shoot. Joel Embiid can shoot.
He can shoot. And so Shaq and Kobe worked for 3 seasons, right? But that was it. Just 3 seasons and then no, we can't do this anymore. You want to try that again with someone whose possession rate is actually higher than Kobe Bryant's?
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine being a teammate like? If any of you guys have played pickup basketball before, imagine being on James Harden's team.
It's not even a team.
It's not a team.
Yeah.
Well, we have to field 4 other players to make this technically a basketball team.
The Nets.
Yeah. Oh.
I agree. I saw it beat a lot. Like I really believe he really does need to be in the post more. I don't know why. That there will be games where I think he literally had a 0-point game this year because all he did was just like mainly jump shots. And I'm very passionate about the big men and how they should be fed, especially since we have Miles Turner, and like I've been with them since he's been drafted, and how they treated him as well. So, but yeah,
well, and think about that. Like, who on the Sixers coaching staff was like, "Hey, you see what they're doing with Miles Turner over in Indiana? We need to do that with Joel Embiid. Let's run that play." Idiot.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Nah, he's not a stretch 5. You shouldn't play him like a stretch 5. You should just take advantage of what he's good at. I love Joel Embiid. Personally, I really like him as a talent.
Me too.
He's great. I mean, he's got, if he can, when he's healthy and when he's into the right mindset, he's hard to stop. I mean, he's almost like Hakeem Olajuwon-esque in the way that his both defensive and offensive presence on the floor. I mean, he's great. He's one. I feel bad for him. I know he said he wants to stay with the Sixers, but imagine him put him on the Mavericks right now. Imagine him. Luka. Imagine Luka feeding him the ball and Porzingis complimenting him at power forward. Imagine.
That's a title team.
That's
a title
right.
team.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, yes.
Just think about it. It's
Oh.
just a different
Oh my
blue
gosh.
and white. It's
That's
just a
unfair.
different blue and white.
That's upsetting.
Save Joel Embiid.
Save Joel. Save Joel. So I do fantasy NBA basketball. It's a lot harder work than fantasy football because you got to pay attention like on a Tuesday. And my team name is Trust the Process. I am all in on the Joel Embiid phenomenon, but I like Ben Simmons. I think, but Ben Simmons needs his own team where he's the clear number 1 to do anything of value. Like, well, how do the Sixers keep effing dudes who have weird shots?
I don't know.
Yeah.
literally.
Bro, there's some. They
They're
need
like
to
the
fix
out of the box.
their coaching staff needs a full rebuild. Now that Doc Rivers is there, but didn't they get Nate McMillan? Isn't Nate McMillan with the Sixers now? If I'm not mistaken,
Was he like an assistant or something?
Yeah, I think he's an assistant with the Sixers and Doc Rivers, which I'm not a Doc Rivers fan. That's a
Well,
whole
so
nother
much for the
conversation.
threes. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I seriously
man.
think Doc Rivers is the reason that Paul George started hitting the backboard instead of the rim during that playoff series. But that's a whole other thing.
I
So,
love
now you got to talk about. Now you've got another elephant, and this isn't a fat joke. This is just because he's just larger than life, and that's Giannis. Where is Giannis going to go? What is Giannis going to do? Right now, as Augustino informed me earlier, that he just recently said that he's not focused on the contract right now, which is the most ridiculous thing that I have heard. If you're not focused on the contract, what are you focused on?
Yeah, he said he's not focused on the contract. He wants to focus on the season. He said
That
he
is the
knew that
contract.
people. He said he knew people weren't gonna like it, but that he's a private person and that it was something that he wanted him himself. I personally actually like it because to me, what that tells me as a player is that he's focused on the game itself. He's focused on the task of hand.
It's a Victor
I
Oladipo
do
quote.
believe, I do believe that he does need to try and look forward a little bit more, maybe start getting an idea. But I like that he's grounded in what I can do right here, right now, and he's not worried about, do I want to make more money with this team? Do I want to go to a different team, try to see if we can get a championship? Do I want to try to get a championship with here? I like his focus, him giving priority to the game above everything else.
What that tells me is my first takeaway from that is instead of not being focused on the contract in your contract year, what that says is you're very open to any option. And you're probably leaning towards leaning because if you're really that committed, or you have doubts. He definitely has doubts. If he didn't have doubts, he would sign the Supermax. I don't think there's a question about that. He clearly has doubts about the Bucks, and I think he's a little butthurt about the whole Bogdanovich thing because he asked for one dude. A Sacramento Kings player. That's all he wanted. He was like, I like this guy. Can you get him for me? And the Bucks couldn't get him. And they get Drew Holiday instead. He didn't want Drew Holiday. Nothing against Drew Holiday. That's just not who he wanted. Like, he was like, can you get me this guy? And they're like, sure, we'll try. And they couldn't do it. That he clearly has doubt in this for this organization. And I think Giannis is sniffing up on some other options. And I know Mark Cuban loves to throw money at big men. So I wouldn't be imagine this wouldn't work as well because Giannis plays like more of a 4 than a 5. But if you put Porzingis at 5 and you play Giannis at 4, again, the Mavericks. Just think the Mavericks are one big man away from just going all the way.
It's all they're missing. It's all they're missing.
Yeah, and they got the money. They got the money too.
Giannis's doubts came into effect when the Bucks wouldn't pay Malcolm Brogdon. When Brogdon signed his free agent contract with the Pacers, and there had been some rumors going around that he was interested in the Pacers and he liked their organization, and that's all fine. But when you're in the NBA, you're like, well, who's going to give me money?
Right.
Bucks didn't want to pay him, and Malcolm and Giannis were pretty tight. They weren't like best friends, but they were pretty tight. And Giannis paid attention to that move and said, okay, where are the loyalties? That being said, did you guys read about his teammates definitely want him to stay? There's not bad blood there. Like,
right.
I guess Chris Middleton came into the locker room at practice and handed him a pen and walked out.
Yes, I did. I did hear about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Subtle.
And he said he now has 20 pens in his locker room.
Oh.
Real subtle. I mean, but yeah, you gotta appreciate it. You know? Like I understand. I think it's pretty clear that it's not a teammate thing. I think it's because of the way that it's been handled. Whenever it's kind of there's still a lot of suspicion going on and rumors, that's always an organizational thing. Thing. Because at the end of the day, player beef always comes out when it's major. Like, especially with big name players, whether you want it to or not, it always comes out because those interactions are noted by the media. It's like when the Celtics like threw stuff across the room when they were losing to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. We find out about that stuff. Like, if Giannis was beefing with teammates, we would know. So
remember when I think it was the Clippers and the Rockets. I think with all that stuff going on in the locker room with like Blake Griffin, Chris Paul.
Oh gosh,
that was epic,
dude. The end of like the DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, like Barnes. That whole team when that started to like vibrate and then explode, like that was so bad. That was. The Clippers are just a mess. They always have been.
The Clippers are such a joke. I love seeing it. It's such a joke.
One thing I would add to the Giannis thing is a little bit of historical perspective, and that is you can't compare Giannis to anybody, of course. He's a unicorn. Right. But when I think about the type of player, the type of person he is, I see some parallels to Tim Duncan. And in 2003, I think it was, Tim Duncan was up for a new contract. It may have been 2001. I don't remember for sure. And everyone's like, of course he's going to sign with the Spurs. He's already got 1, if not 2 titles with them. Why would he not continue? He's shocked. He went around. In fact, at one point, he was going to sign with the Orlando Magic. Somehow.
Imagine that picture.
Oh, my gosh. And he ended up not. So I'm hoping, I'm leaning with kind of Augustino a little bit here about, maybe he's just doing his thing and he's being patient and he's being chill about it, because wherever he goes, he's going to get paid.
Yep.
He's gonna make plenty of money.
Yeah, and
I think
I dare say he might win a championship. If he leaves and he goes to a good team, a contender team, that might be the last piece. Because right now he makes his team a contender, but if he goes to a team that's already a contender, imagine.
I would like to see Giannis kind of like flourish his skill set a little bit more, because right now obviously he's a dominant beast, but at the same time we have seen different teams basically set up a wall in front of the paint, and it gets to him a little bit. If he can start getting that jumper, kind of like how he had a little bit earlier in the year, because he gained so much strength that now it's like he needs to readjust his
Right.
jumper. So if he keeps flourishing on with that, get a good maybe spin like what's it called, spin jumper. Then turnaround jump.
Turnaround.
Yeah,
Spin
turnaround.
360.
Yeah, if he could develop a turnaround jumper,
Like
jump
a
shot.
Kawhi shot, or like a imagine if he could learn to shoot like the fadeaway that like Dirk had. Imagine like the Dirk fadeaway.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It will add a whole nother aspect that the defense
Broken.
has to worry about.
If
And
he
it's gonna
could, if he could shoot that shot with regularity, I know we're not at the hottest takes segment yet, but here it is. If Giannis learns that shot, he's my new GOAT. Put LeBron and Jordan away.
Wow.
If you're telling me he can do the Dirk fadeaway
Right,
with
like
precision, what else does he need?
Okay, so he
How
gets
do
the
you
Dirk
stop him?
fadeaway and he gets a hook shot.
how do you stop
And-
it?
Oh my
How do you
gosh,
stop
now
that?
he's Jabbar? What the heck, man?
Yeah, like how do you stop that? It's
You
like
don't.
the one thing that I do really like about Giannis is that my problem with a lot of players that are a lot of big names is that I see a lot of them that don't seem to be team players. They're single individual players. It's kind of like what you see with Harden a lot, that it's him. He's a good player because he's the only good player on the team. As soon as you add another good player, either his performance goes down or one of his teammates' performance will go down, because there's just not enough room when you're taking 22 shots per game like you did last year. Like you're taking those shots away from other people. And with Giannis, I see him that he works very professionally, and I definitely see him having no problem in still being the start of the show, but sharing the ball and understanding a new role where he is not the only player, not necessarily the best player or the only player who does everything on his team. I see him being able to be a team player as opposed to a lot of these big stars.
Yeah.
Well, I think his morals are also in a good place in that sense, where like he cares about his teammates. Like it's not just like, oh well, I got to make sure like I'm passing the ball to my teammates. Where it's like he has a genuine connection with the rest of his team, and like we said, there's no beef between him and his team for the most part, to what we know. And I think he genuinely really likes playing with the team. He just knows that he wants. Was he the one that said he would play until he was like 45? If he still didn't have a championship or something? I saw someone that said that, but like it wouldn't surprise me if he had that mentality, because I know his main focus right now is winning the whole thing, and I know that he's made that very clear. And so as much as he loves his teammates, he's too focused on the championship and knows that it's like, if this team can't get it done for me, then I will go somewhere else and get it done. And he I mean, boy, the skill set he brings. I mean, imagine like, you know how good the Toronto Raptors are at making like player development. Imagine the player development if he went to the Toronto Raptors with like Nick Nurse. Like, it's scary thoughts, man.
Look what they did with
Maybe that's why they
Pascal,
got
man.
rid of all their big men.
Oh my gosh, the Raptors are clear. Kyle Lowry dishing it to Giannis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
So this is my next question, real quick. Is where would if he wasn't going back to the Bucks, where would you guys want to see him?
I would love to see him on that Mavericks team. I think that would be scary.
Yes.
Same.
I've always had just this thought that Giannis. I've had like thoughts of Giannis playing with the Heat. I feel like it would be. I feel like it would be like an amazing. I don't know. I just really like it. I don't know what to say about it. We have Tyler Hero, JB Butler. I mean, like JB Butler, like add Giannis to that. I would love to watch that team.
My one thought is
They're
Bam.
trading away Jimmy Butler, maybe my least favorite player in the National Basketball Association. Butler.
I actually thought that he was, because he was really considering it. I know the Heat have money to throw at him, but when they re-signed Bam to that 5-year contract, that really made me think that they were moving on, because Bam is a very similar physical freak Bam is a whole beast of his own. I think we could see Bam developing into an MVP candidate here the next couple of years, if not the Defensive Player of the Year. If he gets if Bam can become better offensively, he's something. He plays hard. Bam plays hard all the time. I mean, my favorite highlight from this whole year, and arguably I think in maybe the past 5 years, was in this playoff series against the Heat and the Celtics. And it's that last block on Jason Tatum to win them the game. That is one of the best basketball plays I have seen in my lifetime. I mean, to stop the momentum of that dunk, there was no way. It would snap my arm in half like a twig. I mean,
that's actually more true than you think. There's a video. I can't remember the person who makes it, but he analyzes basically the forces involved, and for a normal person, that would dislocate your shoulder out of your socket. Like there's the amount of strength at the angle that he had his arm to be able to block that is absurd.
And
his
for it
arm
to be
should have been
clean.
completely dislocated. His arm should have been out of his socket, but he had the strength to just block it and make it look relatively easy.
He blows my mind. Bam is one of my favorite players. He's got a great name too. How can you not like a guy named Bam? It's fantastic.
Bam.
Who was the guy that the Hornets? They were the Bobcats at the time. Drafted Biombo.
Oh, Bismack Biyombo.
Bismack, yeah.
Bismack Biyombo.
Bismack.
Yes, sir.
Is the best name since Bismack.
Charlotte Bobcats.
Well, you asked for the team that it sounds like most of us are saying the Mavericks. Ian's saying the Heat. I'd be down for that Mavericks setup. But I tell you what, the team I'd least like to see him on is the Charlotte Hornets because what is going on there? What is the goal here?
They got LaMelo, Gordon Hayward on $120 million contract.
Yeah.
Why does Michael Jordan? Why is he so obsessed with finding the most pale human beings to sign for a basketball team? I have questions, Michael. What like?
He does not.
Oh
Michael.
Man, you know what we need here? Cody Zeller. Like what?
Cody Zeller looks like he should be a middle-aged white dad raising his children, making dad jokes. I mean, I'm sorry, he's not built. I mean, he's fine. He's fine as a player, but if you just look at him, it's like looking at Phillip Rivers and thinking, yeah, that's an NFL quarterback. No, thank you.
Take a guess how old Cody Zeller is.
Isn't he like 31? Like I know he's 30. Not even that old. He looks like he's 45.
He's 28.
Oh my! There's
what?
Oh.
Yeah, him and Victor were at IU at the same time. Victor was a year ahead of him, but
Man.
Yeah, think about that.
28.
Next time you see Cody Zeller play against the Pacers. Cody Zeller is a year younger than Victor Oladipo, but tell me who looks older.
I think Cody Zeller looks older than LeBron James. Okay, so we got Marcus. I need to know where Marcus was thinking for Giannis real quick.
For Giannis?
Yeah.
I feel like if we're talking about championships, that we're probably gonna have to say Mavericks because
Yes, sir.
That would be a good series between the Lakers and the Mavs if they had Giannis. Oh man, that would be good to see AD and Giannis match up.
Oh, I'd love to see that. LeBron and Luka and AD and dude, that would be primetime television. I would watch every single one of those games start to finish.
One thing about the Hornets and specifically LaMelo Ball, he's going to be playing the point guard position at 6'8". The last time we saw someone that big was Magic Johnson. So
get off. Stop.
Oh my God.
Too hot, Marcus, bro. We don't. No. You're not comparing LaMelo to Magic Johnson, bro. We are not doing that.
I can't. That's egregious.
Hot take.
What is the process to be a host on this podcast? You clearly did not go through the proper procedure. That is, my goodness.
Oh boy.
Not even the last time we've seen that. But Ben Simmons is really a point guard.
I thought that's what he was gonna say. I thought he was gonna say Ben Simmons. Man really said Magic.
I had to say Magic.
Bro, LaMelo would have to put on another 80 pounds to look like Magic. He's a twig. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about with the rookies. This rookie class could be either really good or really bad, but I have no idea what to expect.
I feel that these rookies have a very high skill cap. I just don't know that they're in places where they will be able to reach that potential.
Anthony Edwards playing for the Timberwolves.
Yes, Timberwolves. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Talk about lack of player development. Andrew Wiggins. Look what you did
ruined
to my
him.
boy Wiggins.
Look how they massacred my
Put him
boy.
in Toronto. Oh my gosh.
Toronto makes everyone better. I swear, bro. That's why, dude. Okay, let's talk about this because now we got one of Toronto's big player development people. We got with the new coach of the Pacers, and I want to know Mr. Burkhart's thoughts on this because I haven't really got to talk about it yet. Not much, at least. And I mean, Nate. We got new coach Nate. What are your thoughts, Mr. Burkhart? You like him? You don't like him?
I don't know enough about him other than his reputation in Toronto, which is as tied to Nick Nurse as anything. But I'll say this. First of all, congrats to the Pacers for hiring a coach that wasn't just some dumb, stereotypical big name, right?
Right, like a Mike D'Antoni.
Like a Mike D'Antoni or Mark Jackson or something stupid like that. They went and got a guy who knows basketball. If he is anything like Nick Nurse in terms of player development, in terms of ball movement and speed, while also respecting the defensive end, I think the Pacers are a better team. I don't think it'll look like that in the standings because a lot of the East is a lot more intriguing now.
Right.
But the other thing he might do, Nate McMillan was not a bad guy by any stretch, but he didn't necessarily know how to, like, even teachers or like college coaches or high school coaches, there's a little bit of a give and take. It's like, okay, I'm the authority figure. You've got to do what I say, but I know what you're leaning towards. I'm going to help you out a little bit. Now imagine that at a professional level. Nate McMillan didn't really have that. He said, here's my system, go do it. But these are adults he's telling to do that. You need to show him a little love. And his offensive and defense, his defensive scheme was good. His offensive scheme did not really show enough love or spread around the love as much as it should. And I think the new Nate will do that. So I'm in.
I am also in.
Yeah.
I agree all around with pretty much everything you said, and I think a big thing is what I like about him is he really clearly cares about the players, which was something that I always kind of questioned with other Nate. I don't know. There was times where Nate was very what's the word I'm looking for? Self-preservative, where it was like, like, oh, just got to do what I got to do to keep my job, and obviously that backfired. But he wouldn't take any risks. Whereas, what's the first thing that happens when new Nate comes in? Bjorkgren comes in. He goes and visits. He flies across the country to see his players. He goes and see Vic. He texts him immediately, and then he goes and flies over to, like, I think it was Florida or California. It was not a small trip. And he goes out and sees him work out, and he talks to him, and he gets to know him. And then he does the same for Sabonis, and and he does the same for Miles. And there's very clear. I also like the clear communication with him and Kevin Pritchard, which I think is really good. That the coach and the GM are on the same page, and I think they're going to click really well because they both have a good understanding. Like, this team has a lot of talent, but it's not in, like, spikes. It's like the talent is, like, very level, but there's a lot of it. It's just not necessary. So what you do is you take advantage of all these little things. Sabonis plays really hard, can get lots of boards, and is great in the paint. Okay, you take advantage of that. You complement him with a guy like Miles Turner, who has a three-point jump shot. Or any sort of jump shot. He can block. Miles Turner is great at blocking without fouling. When he's on his game, Miles Turner has 4 or 5 blocks a game. And that's fantastic on the defensive end as well. And then you take you got a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, who's a 50-40-90 guy at his best. And that's, again, you basically take everyone's skills that aren't necessarily anything super special, but you combine them in the right way and you let them bring each other up. Almost in like a LeBron on the Cavs style way where, like, no one on that team was really good besides LeBron and maybe Kyrie. Kyrie.
Maybe Kyrie.
Me and Kyrie don't get along. But like
Jared has strong feelings.
LeBron brings all of his teammates up. LeBron makes the whole team better. So what if Nate can basically do the same? If Nate can create an offensive scheme that makes everyone emphasize each other's strengths and reduce the weaknesses, this Pacers team could be very good. Could be very good.
Yeah,
Will it be this
they're
year? I don't know, but I think they'll be very good.
they're going to get at least 3 more wins because they got rid of TJ Leaf. So that's fun.
Okay, Marcus wanted to ask you about your thoughts on Goga.
Yes. I wanted to know your thoughts about Goga because from my perspective, I feel like, especially around the post, I feel like he has gotten a little bit better because I remember watching the Pacers and Bulls game, that first game where Oladipo came back, and I was there live in that game, and just watching him, I could see like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of rookiness in here, and I feel like more towards, especially around the bubble, I feel like I've seen like a little bit of improvement.
I mean,
So I
he
wanted to
blocked
know how
AD.
you feel about him. Yeah, he did block
He
AD.
did block AD. He did block AD.
Oh, I love that. Those are good times. I'll say this to go historical perspective. I don't think there's a single foreign Pacers player that's worked out. Now, and by foreign I mean they've drafted from outside. Like Sabonis isn't foreign. Like they traded for him and all that. But every time the Pacers draft from Europe, it's a Darko. It's just not going to work.
It's a Darko Milicic. Yes, the GOAT.
Oh yeah. I remember they were several years ago. They were really, really hot on this guy they brought in named Sarunas Jasikevičius.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
He's the point guard. He played for Tel Aviv. He's gonna that is like 2 assists a game. I think he could technically shoot the ball. No one cared. If Goga is your third big man, I'm fine with him. I think there's something there. But just the third big man. I don't see him fleshing out into anything more than this is a reliable 10-minute a game somewhere in the second quarter, third quarter.
And Ian Mahinmi.
Oh, Yamahimi. Oh,
I thought you saw my name for
Washington Wizards about that guy. Yeah. Woof.
But yeah, speaking of Pacers and them being maybe a sleeper team, maybe not. I don't know. Well, let's move on to the NBA sleeper teams for the year. We'll start with Ian.
Okay. My sleeper team is the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh.
I think that the Atlanta Hawks they had like a really good offseason, honestly. I mean they brought in Clint Capella towards the end of last season, but he barely got to play because yeah, the GOAT.
Greatest player of all time.
Yeah. Great fantasy player.
I can imagine. He plays hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They brought in Danilo Gallinari. They obviously stole Bogdanovich from the Bucks because they wanted him so bad, but we know how that worked out. I think that they've been able to add in a lot of needed depth to their team because it was really only kind of just like Trae Young and John Collins. And Trae Young, he can't play defense at all. He's not that type of player.
No.
He's the type of guy that you get to add points to the game. He doesn't really add that much defense. I think that by bringing in more like seasoned players, they're adding to their depth. They're becoming a better team. I mean, like they brought in Bogdanovich. He can, if I'm not mistaken, he's a good 3-point shooter. With him alone, they bring up their 3-point average like 10 places because they used to be the worst in the league.
That's
so
crazy.
I mean, I think that they could potentially end their drought this year. Honestly,
I think there's a lot of potential on that team. I definitely think the potential is the key word.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unrefined pieces. I think you could see a situation where they show flashes this year, but next year is when they might be the real contenders after they click a little bit more, maybe add a couple more pieces. Trae Young develops a little more because right now Trae Young is very raw in a prospect sense because, okay, so he can shoot from 55 feet. He can shoot from half court. That's nice. But like let's talk like real basketball for a second. You're very, very correct in saying that his defense abilities are about as good as Michael Porter Jr.'s. Like he's a liability. He's a liability on defense right now. And
That's conservative. No, he's much worse than a liability.
yeah, I
He's,
mean,
like he's literally not there. Like I think he goes and sits down every time it goes across the
I'd
court.
rather have James Harden guarding my point guard.
And that's just and you're right, and it's obscene. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. No. And so he's got a lot of work to do in that end of the floor. Kind of reminds me of LaMelo. I feel like LaMelo and Trae Young are kind of similar. I don't think LaMelo's as good a shooter as Trae Young, but I think he's a little better passer than Trae Young. In a prospect sense again, because Trae Young still he's only going in his third year. You know,
Yeah.
he's got a lot. He's young.
I mean, we saw improvements from his beginner season this year. I mean, he was an all-star, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think he was. I think he was an all-star. He got a lot of votes.
Yeah.
I know he got a lot of votes.
He's an all-star.
Yeah, I mean, like, if he continues to make improvements, I see his potential growing. Honestly, he's going to become a better player easily. And then another player that I forgot to mention was Onyeka Okongwu, their new like rookie center that they drafted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's another good prospect.
Yes, he's another like really good prospect that adds to their center depth that they really needed, in my opinion. So I mean, like I think that they're going to be pretty good for the future. Pretty set for the future.
I like that. I like that take. I think a lot of people just kind of forget the Hawks exist sometimes. So I appreciate you.
Including the fans in Atlanta. Yes.
Yes. Well, I'd hate to be an Atlanta fan in general. So it's a rough life. Being a Falcons or a Braves or whatever you are a fan, it sucks. But I'm gonna go to Mr. Burkhart now. Who's your sleeper for the year?
Okay, here we go. I think that the Phoenix Suns are a second-round playoff team. I'm calling it right here. The Phoenix Suns will make the second round of the playoffs.
That was my sleeper team.
So y'all can piggyback off of each other. We'll let you piggyback off of each other.
Okay. Why don't you go first, Augustine?
Well, I was going to talk about that. The Phoenix Suns had kind of a rough year last year. I mean, they went a little bit below 500, but they did have, I believe it was the 7th best shooting percentage in the league. So they had a pretty good offense. I mean, their defense, they had the 8th best shooting percentage in the league. Sorry.
Ain't no in the bubble.
Yeah.
Devin Booker. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but what I see with that, in my opinion, when you have a good season, but then you kind of fall apart when it counts, is kind of a lack of experience. And if you look at this core, it's pretty young. Devin Booker has been around for 5 years now, which, you know, it's a decent amount of time, but not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily call him a veteran. You've got Adebayo, who's who's been in there for 2 years now. And Michael Bridges, who's also on their starting lineup, who's only been there for 2 years. So bringing someone like Chris Paul in, who has a lot more experience and is probably going to be able to mentor these guys and help them develop, even just by being there, just as a presence on the court, really can make a big difference for them and be able to allow them to make that push that they weren't able to make last year.
Absolutely. And the thing I will add here is, when you get Chris Paul, you think about point guard principles. But what people sometimes forget, the dude's a killer shooter if he wants to be. So all of a sudden, their backcourt are just assassins from anywhere on the court. They can make anything from anywhere. And that's impressive. I think their bench needs to be acknowledged as something to take seriously. People sleep on one of my favorite Timberwolves before he got traded away, Dario Saric. I loved him in the Sixers too. That was a dumb trade. And every year when I watch the playoffs for the past several years, I go, which playoff team is Jay Crowder on this year? And the answer is, this year will be the Phoenix Suns. Jay Crowder will be on the Phoenix Suns, causing some ruckus.
Man's got a wild life.
Winning a game. Who knows? I think this is a deep team. Speaking of white dudes that Michael Jordan hires, for some odd reason, I think they have Frank Kaminsky on their team. I think he's a deep bench player. I'm not certain. Um, and I that does not contribute to my take at all. I just think it's funny he's on that team. But we're looking at a team that Chris Paul went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which many people predict to be a lottery team, and he made them a serious playoff team. A serious, you got to respect these guys, playoff team. If he hadn't gotten injured on that during that year with the Rockets, do the Rockets make the finals? Maybe not, but his injury was a key contributor to that. He has always been at least reasonably successful everywhere he's been. When he was with the New Orleans Hornets, he was taking, like, people are like, oh, I can't believe they went farther. The second best player was David West, who's good for 17 and 7 a game. I can't believe he went that far. And then the Clippers was a weird situation. I don't think he respected Blake Griffin as an intelligent basketball player. You think about what was the Clippers kind of catchphrase? Lob City, right?
Lob City.
Lob City. A lot of those with DeAndre Jordan. So that Blake Griffin thing wasn't kind of matched. It's almost like Chris Paul's like, okay, for the rest of my career, I'm just going to go around and make second-round playoff teams out of randos. Okay, so he'll do it with the Phoenix Suns this year, and then he'll go to my boys over at the Charlotte Hornets, and he'll do it the next year. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, Phoenix Suns. It sounds like it's my pick and Agostino's pick.
It's a good pick. I
Really
definitely
quickly,
thought about them too.
Yeah, really quick, I just wanted to correct myself. I think I said Adebayo when I was talking about DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah,
Ayton's
just want to correct myself right
Ayton's
there.
another one of those guys that has a lot of physical talent. If he could develop some of those, take advantage of those, he could be scary good.
Yeah, and he's young.
He was picked first overall for a reason.
Yeah, and again, he's young, and plus that veteran presence that he's going to be able to have.
Yeah, with Chris Paul.
There,
Chris
even
Paul, feed
even
him
if
the
it's not his
ball.
position. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to see.
We've been talking about him all night, and sorry, Marcus, you get to Marcus. I'll let you wrap it up, but we've been talking about him. You know, we've been discussing about what they could do, but my team, despite the fact that they're probably not going to get those players, is still the Mavericks. I still think the Mavericks are a sleeper team. I think that you will see Luka assert himself as a top 5 player in the NBA. And it will not be a question anymore. Like, next season, Luka will come in and he'll just put 30 a night, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. He'll do the Russell Westbrook from MVP Russell Westbrook season where he averages a triple-double, but better and with more points and a better efficiency. And him and Porzingis will just kill everyone. That offense will just obliterate every team they come. They won't even need to play defense. It's just psh, psh, psh. I mean, you got some other and if you need defense, you got some guys like Maxi Kleber who isn't necessarily Anthony Davis, but he's a good, solid defensive player that can lock up the other big man with the help of Porzingis. And I will say, I was really upset when they traded Seth Curry. I felt like Seth Curry was going to be a big piece for their sleeper run this year, and they ditch him. For Josh Richardson. That's like trading Steph Curry for Seth Curry.
Oh no, it's not.
It's it's like the same person but not as good. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. It felt very forced, and it was like the John Wall Russell Westbrook trade. It was like trading the same play style. I mean, it was, I don't know. I didn't completely understand it. I felt like it hurt the Mavericks more than it helped them. But you never know. You never know what he's a solid rotational player. You know, it's at the end of the day, I think this has been very clear throughout NBA history. This has never changed. It's at the end of the day, as good as your stars can be, you need a bench. You need a bench. You need role players. Yeah. You need people that can come in and put up points on those nights where your stars are shooting for 25%. You need people that can lift the other people up and be willing to take the fall, or not even take the fall, but still hold the team up when the team is not holding itself up. Because at the end of the day, you cannot make a deep playoff push without a deep roster. End of story. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So that was all. I'm assuming, based on what we've talked about with the Mavericks, I think there's some Luka. I love Luka. He's already become one of my favorite players. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
Luka's crazy. You mentioned about you thinking that he could go for averaging a triple-double. He's pretty darn close. This past year, he had 28.8 points per game. He had 9.4 rebounds per game and 8.8 assists. So just basically one more rebound and one more assist, and he's basically there.
I see no reason why that can't happen. And Porzingis is still pretty young too. I don't think Porzingis isn't even 30, if I'm not mistaken, or he's.
No, Porzingis is Porzingis is young. The problem I would have with Porzingis is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah,
he had quite a few knee issues. So.
Big man knees, just like Joel Embiid. But yeah, let's go to we've talked enough about the Mavericks now. Let's go to Marcus.
Porzingis is only 25.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He feels like he's been in the league for forever. Like,
it was like 28.
He was on the Knicks.
Well,
and
living in New York City, those are hard years. So he's
Still aging.
25 is like a 28.
He's more like 35. Add an extra 10.
He's a New York City 32.
All right, Marcus, go for it.
I'm going to say the Washington Wizards.
Whoa! Whoa! Are we in the hot take statement? What is this?
Wizards. I think that adding Russell Westbrook to
The next Jerry West is that your take?
But Russell Westbrook alongside Bradley Beal, I think going from Harden to Bradley Beal is going to help him out a lot. People are acting like he did not just average a triple-double not too long ago, and he's basically a walking triple-double. And that he's gonna, Bradley Beal doesn't really need the ball that much to still, be dominant, And I think having Westbrook right there, who he could pass, he could also grab boards and score and be as explosive, more explosive than John Wall. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get that different aspect, and I feel like that's already going to push the Wizards up. And then you still have young stars like Thomas Bryant. He's still there.
Yeah, loser.
You still see improvement there, and then we got Mahimi, but
he's still on the roster. He plays professional basketball still.
Yeah,
he does.
He
In fact, is he their starting center?
No, I think Bryant still has that.
I'll probably start Bryant at that position.
Okay,
I imagine.
Yeah.
Didn't they just draft a big man?
Who
did the Wizards get? They didn't get Okoro, did they? Did they get Isaac Okoro?
Isaac Okoro.
I didn't do my research for the
I don't
Wizards.
know, but I feel like for the future they could definitely get like a little bit more pieces. But I could definitely see cracking into the playoffs. Maybe actually challenging the Orlando Magic, since last year's standings, it went from the 33-win Magic team straight to the 23-win Hornets team. So into the 10-game
the bottom of the East was atrocious.
Yes.
By the way, the Wizards picked up Denny Avdija.
Yeah. I just looked that up. That he was the yearly like Europe prospect that everyone was talking about and curious about. So he's one of those guys that could be like a Luka. I don't think he's Luka. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's Luka.
Or he could be a Goga.
Or he could be a Goga. Yeah, he could be a Luka or he could be a Goga. He could make an instant impact and it could just click. Some of those Europe guys get in the NBA and just boom, just clicks, But then others, it never clicks. It never clicks for them. And, I mean, he was picked 9th. I mean, he was a pretty high pick. I mean, you're a top 10 pick.
Yeah,
you're expected to be impactful in some way pretty early on. So, especially on a team like the Wizards, it's not like they're stacked. It's like they can use any talent they can get. I do think, Marcus, did you talk about Hachimura already?
Not yet.
He's one of my big keys for the Wizards. If he had a solid rookie year. If he can take that to the next level this year, the Wizards are definitely a sleeper team. Definitely.
Look,
Yeah.
they're definitely going to be fun to watch. I cannot wait to see Westbrook and Beal go crazy, because I really feel like they're gonna do good. I really feel like they're gonna do good.
Yeah, I definitely think that Bradley Beal is easily a better teammate than James Harden for Russell Westbrook. I feel like
Yeah.
we touched on this earlier. I think we touched on this earlier because James Harden, he's like the player that you build around. You don't add another player like him to your roster because it's just gonna become like more imbalanced. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I feel like Bradley Beal, he's that good setup guy for Russell Westbrook. So then they can all elevate the Wizards, and then I feel like everybody forgets Davis Bertans on
There you
the
go. Yep.
Wizards.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes, I think that he's a really underappreciated player for the Wizards.
He is. There's a lot of players on the
Yeah,
Wizards that are underappreciated
Yeah.
because the Wizards don't always succeed in the way that you expect them to. But there's a lot of guys on that team that are improving significantly every year, and then the Wizards were not that. I mean, I feel like people forget that the Wizards were a deep playoff team just like 3, 4, 5 years ago with John Wall. I mean, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
You know, you want to hear another former Pacer that was on the Wizards, C.J. Miles.
Oh my
Man.
gosh.
Man, C.J. Miles, those times. Those
The
times.
Pacers and the Wizards
Those
have a very similar. They're both kind of small market teams that can't necessarily afford the biggest of names, and sometimes they just stumble upon the right guy, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we meant to do that." But at least the Wizards
It's
can draft.
upsetting that Washington's considered a small market. It's like one of the biggest cities in the country. Like, they function like a small market team because their guy Ernie Grunfeld, who was running for so long, was just such a terrible GM. He was just the worst. Just the worst. So much wasted money. Well, the John Wall contract's actually an example of that. It's not that John Wall wasn't good, but he wasn't worth the money they paid him.
Not if you
they're
kept tearing his Achilles by falling down his own stairs at his house. That's not how you.
Yeah.
That's not how
I
you
mean,
want to get
Washington,
hurt.
man, their football team doesn't even have a name, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Bro, Washington's a crazy place for sports right now.
Washington's, yeah.
Their basketball team didn't have a name for a hot minute when they were just, well, we probably shouldn't call this Bullets anymore. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely there's been some interesting times in DC sports, to say the least. But now we're finally here. We've been teasing it. We're finally here, but it is time for the hottest of takes. Everyone's favorite segment. My favorite segment. Everyone's favorite segment. If you don't like the hottest of takes, why are you watching a sports show? Go watch like Skip and Shannon or something. Okay? Gosh.
Wait,
So
did you say watch? Is this a video?
Wait,
Did you not know,
No.
Mr. Burkhart?
that was a video.
Thought it was a podcast.
no, it's a sports show. That's why we're recording.
It's a
Oh my-
podcast with
I
the
could have
video.
pulled my hair. How do I look?
You look
You're fine.
fantastic.
You're fine.
We all look
You're fine.
fantastic. Everyone looks great.
Oh man, I got.
I mean, we're basically male
just for radio.
models.
Oh yeah.
That's upsetting. Let's move on. I'm your teacher, bro.
So yeah, so let's get the hottest of takes. But who wants to start? I'm not starting. I refuse to start. I don't want to. Actually, maybe I should start because
Not
mine's
starting,
sad.
Not
I'm
starting.
warning
Oh,
you.
Ian's got one.
All right, Ian, go for it. Go
Okay.
for it.
I don't think the Houston Rockets are gonna make it past the first round. I honestly think that they're
Oh,
gonna.
sorry.
What?
He's doing his edits.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think they're a team that could pass the first round. James Harden's already. Their
In La La
relationship
Land.
is weird. They're falling apart. I mean, look, DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, he can't stay healthy all the time. You see how he is. Come on, man.
The team's a mess.
Yeah, they're a mess. They're in Houston. They're a mess. I love to see it. Yeah. As a
Laugh at
Dodgers fan,
Houston's
I
pain.
love to see Houston sports teams fall down. I love it.
Them cameras.
Yes.
No, I definitely agree with. I don't even know if that's. I might go hotter. I might say they're not going to
I
make
don't
the
even know if
playoffs
they're
at
going to make
all.
the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
I
I'm
mean,
very serious.
That's sort of where I was going. My hot take was actually very similar, but a bit more extreme. I said the Houston Rockets aren't getting to 500.
No,
Oh
I.
my goodness.
Woo!
They
I
aren't going
mean,
500. You want it spicy? I got you with spicy. But here's the thing.
how low? How low are you talking? How low are you thinking though? You thinking 300?
I'm thinking like 1 or 2 games below 500.
Oh nah, bro.
I mean,
I'm thinking 15 games below.
listen, my last prediction in this style is low-key about to cost me right now. Okay?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not panning
yeah.
out too well.
oh, that makes
To
no
fill you in,
sense to
Mr.
Mr.
Burkhart.
Burkhart.
To fill you in, Mr. Burkhart, I predicted 2 weeks ago that nobody in the NFC East was going to win 5 games, and if somebody wins 6 games, the podcast gets to decide a punishment for me for being so wrong.
No.
And yeah, the Washington football team decided to go on a hot streak.
Beat the Steelers.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
decided to go
now
on a
there's
hot
2
streak.
teams in the NFC East that are at 5 wins, and they're both on a hot streak.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not looking good
so-
for Augustino.
yeah, not looking good for me. But this past year, they finished 4th. They had a shoot, I just lost it. I believe they had 45 wins. I'm not completely sure about that right now. I just had it pulled up, but I just lost it. But they finished 4th. They had a pretty good season, but they lost Russell Westbrook, and they have John Wall now, who has not played a game since December 26th, 2018. So in 2 weeks, it will have been 2 years since he played a game. If he does well and he can come back and get into the swing of things, this prediction will fall apart. But can he do that after 2 years off? That's going to be very difficult. James Harden is not going to be nowhere near enough to pick up the pace and just carry this team. He's just not good enough to do that. I know there's a lot of other people that aren't gonna like me saying that. Honestly, I don't care. James Harden is shooting 44% from the field, which isn't bad, but he's also shooting over 50% of his team's shots.
Oh,
He shot
that's
22. He had 22 attempts per game, and the Rockets as a whole had 45 attempts per game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have someone taking that many shots for your team and being a shooter more than someone who's putting up layups and more higher percentage shots, like if you have a big man taking the majority of your shots, those are higher percentage shots. More of those are going to go in. When you have someone like Harden, who he was averaging 9 field goals per game, that's not going to be enough to win you games. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I mean, he has some pieces around him, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And yeah, I don't think they're going to make it. I'm going to take it one step further than Ian. I'm saying they're not going to get to 500.
I'm taking
Without
it one step
Harden,
further. They won't make it
the
to 400.
Without Harden, the Rockets are basically a paper airplane. Honestly, that's what you're saying.
I'm gonna take it a step farther. They're gonna turn into a G League team.
Hit them with what they do in soccer.
They're gonna get relegated.
Demoted.
Imagine. They become
Finish
a
in
minor
last
league team. James Harden gets arrested. I shoot. That's why did it all have to be the Rockets? Everyone wanted the Rockets.
They deserve it.
I'll flip the script. I don't want to end on mine because I think mine is kind of sad. But okay, you ready? I don't think we'll see Klay Thompson ever play an NBA basketball again.
Whoa!
No.
I think
come
that
on.
I think that the second one will be the last. I think he'll end up retiring before he gets healthy again.
That is tragic. That's
I mean,
Chris
think
Bosh
about
level
it.
tragic.
Think about the toll that would take mentally. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we don't really we as people can't truly appreciate how hard rehabilitation is on an athlete. Especially, I mean, so he gets hurt and he misses so much time and he's finally coming back and he tears it he has a whole nother injury in practice. He doesn't even get to play a game and he's already out again. I mean, that would kill me. I would rot inside my own head if that happened. I mean, I understand Clay's a tough guy. I mean, Clay, We know this, okay? He took free throws on a torn ACL, or was it that is Achilles? Which one was one is an ACL and one's the Achilles? Whatever
ACL.
it was.
Sorry, the Achilles is right now.
Okay, so the ACL, when he tore his ACL, he went back out and took 2 free throws in the clutch. I mean, that's bonkers. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of pain. I wouldn't be able to stand. I might pass out with that kind of pain. He took free throws and made them. He made the free throws. Like, I mean, and then to finally, and he's getting healthy, and then boom, this happens again. I mean, if he makes a speedy recovery, 6-7 months, whatever, like, I still just, if it doesn't go as planned, I just don't see how he can. I think he might pull an Andrew Luck and just be like, hey, I'm just not having fun anymore. Because if you're not having fun playing the sport, why play it? You know?
Yeah.
He's got better things he can do with his time than tear more ligaments in his legs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great guy and a great basketball player. He could definitely do other things that would he would have no problem making money outside of the NBA. He knows that. But I think he also, I mean, it's not an easy decision. I'm not saying he's going to be like, "Oh, I'm done." He's not going to pull a Des Bryant and just be like, "Oh, COVID's hard. I'm going to quit again." But but I think that I do think that this might be the end of Klay Thompson.
I think we're going to see him on the court again. But I think that at that time when we see him on the court again is what's going to determine whether he's going to stay or he's going to leave. Because one of the other things as an athlete that becomes very difficult when you have these prolonged injuries, and especially back to back, is how do you stay sharp? You know, like time that you can't practice is time you're declining. If you don't practice, you decline. It's a steady decline. And so how do you keep yourself from falling below a threshold where your body is clearly already catching up to you? And so you can't rely on just your pure physical talent. How do you keep yourself active enough that you can continue to compete with these other young talents that are coming up?
Right.
And
Clay's not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah. And so if he's able to find a way, maybe he'll be able to stay. But I think the biggest challenge for him is going to be obviously the mental part, you know, especially the second injury coming into practice, not even in the game. But I think a very big challenge for him is also going to be how does he stay sharp throughout this entire rehabilitation process.
Yep.
I really do feel bad for him, man. Like, not like first when he tore his ACL, and at that time where we were saying, well, you know, thank goodness it's not an Achilles, and then next thing you know, he tears his Achilles. I mean, that's just rough, man.
That's heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I remember when I saw that.
Yeah,
I was like, oh. I mean, there was a genuine like sigh of sadness when I
really
saw
feel like I feel like every NBA fan just had because he's a great guy too. Like he's a
and
great
really
guy.
funny.
Yes. Yeah. He's just a great dude, and it just sucks. And I really hope that we see him on the court again because us fans need to give him a big like celebration.
Yeah, let me clarify. I don't want Klay to retire. You know,
Right.
like I'll just make that clear. I love Klay Thompson. In fact, he has been one of my favorite players I hate the Golden State Warriors. I can't stand them as a team. But Klay, I don't know, man. He's just such a likable player. He's super professional, works hard, fun to watch. Like 37 in the third quarter. I will never forget that. I mean, that was one of the single best displays of basketball ever in the history of basketball.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
there's no debating it. Not even Wilt did that. Wilt Chamberlain did not score 30 points in 37 points in a quarter. And he's the one that scored 100 points in a game. Never 37 in a quarter, though. I mean, that's 40 points. 37 points in a game is amazing. 37 in a quarter, that's broken. That's like video game stuff.
You turn on the sliders.
Right. You put it on
Yeah.
rookie mode and just start
I can tell you
chucking
right
them
now,
up.
my 2K character hasn't done that.
But yeah, I want to see Klay come back, but I don't know. There's something that tells me I wouldn't be upset with him. I wouldn't be upset with him. I would be hurt. obviously, like, I'd be sad that he wouldn't come back, but I would understand if that was the decision that he ended up making, because I get it. He's a person. He's not a robot. He has feelings and emotions and thoughts in his head, and that's tough. Injuries like that are super tough on people.
Yeah.
So
To put his 37-point quarter in a bit of perspective, you got to think about shot clock is 24 seconds both ways, so that's a bit under a minute per possessions for each team.
Yeah.
He scored he was averaging 3 points per minute during that quarter. So basically dropping a 3-pointer every possession. He's basically what he did. So, yeah.
It's like Reggie Miller's 9 points, except, or is it 8 points in 9 seconds or 9 points in 8 seconds?
Better in the team won, like the series. Reggie won that game, but Clay's like, no, that was cool. I really like that, but we're gonna win a championship.
Yeah. So, but it's like on a whole, it's only on a whole nother level. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from that depressing topic, unless anyone has thoughts, we can get to Marcus.
I could say, it just reminds me of Ken Dryden. He's recognized like one of the best NHL goalies of all time. He played for the Montreal Canadiens for like 8 seasons. When goalies, they can usually play like, especially at his level, they could play like upwards like 13. Yeah. But he was at the level where like, I just can't do this anymore.
So, like, you see a lot of players do it. Luke
we got to
Calvin Johnson.
It's like something that fans, I don't think that they appreciate, that players are humans just like they are, and they aren't just machines that you could just put at work and they just keep on going and going. So I mean, it's a sad truth. Yeah.
Barry Sanders is kind of the OG of this debate here, of this topic.
Definitely.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here with my hottest takes, and I have 5 of them.
Go for it.
And I'm just going to list them.
5? Okay, go for it.
Okay. I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to explain them. You guys can. Okay, here we go. The first one's kind of a bummer for me. NBA playoffs, Eastern Conference. The Pacers are the 8th seed, and barely.
Oh.
I'm predicting the Pacers will be the 8th seed. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay, hot take number 2. The financial situation this season, especially with playing with no fans, will be so detrimental to a team that we will see a Seattle professional basketball team by 2025.
Yes, sir. I like that take.
Goodbye, Sacramento.
Sacramento's an option. I think Charlotte's another option that needs to be taken into account.
They did just have a huge boost in ticket sales because of LaMelo.
Great. Whatever. This is not a hot take at all. LaMelo sucks. Okay, next. Okay, hottest take number 3. I think OG Anunoby is going to be on the short list for Defensive Player of the Year this season. Like, he'll be top 3. Okay, hot take number 4. Not this season because he'll have to rest too long. But I predict that LeBron James will be a top 3 MVP candidate at least 1, if not 2 more times in the next 4 seasons. That LeBron James will be a top 3 MVP candidate 1, if not 2 times in the next 4 seasons.
Completely agree.
Yes, and here is my last one. Okay. Your MVP candidates this season. MVP. Here we go. Oh man, I gotta. Here it is. Luka's gonna win the MVP.
Woo! I like that take.
Luka Doncic, MVP, leads the Mavericks to a 3 seed in the West, with the Lakers being the 1 seed, the Nuggets being the 2 seed. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna give you a bonus 6th hot take. You ready for this? Bonus 6th hot take. Clippers, no higher than 6th. No higher than 6th. With the possibility that Paul George does not stay there for the entire season.
Or for the rest of his career, like he's saying once again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's my hot takes.
All right, so to keep things quick as much as those are all very good, but I think we should talk about the Luka thing real quick. At least we should talk about the Luka thing. I very much like that take. I think that people, like I said, I already picked the Mavericks as my sleeper. I already talked about how much I like Luka. If Luka makes another jump from last year to this year, like he did his rookie year to last year, I mean, is it even possible that someone else can win? It's not going to be Giannis. People are finally getting tired of the Giannis deal.
Player fatigue, right? Yep.
And it's like what happened to Russell Westbrook. He's still doing the same thing that he did when he won MVP. It's just like, oh, well, that's just what he does. Like,
James Harden's going to sour on people, so he's completely off the table. LeBron will have to rest for large chunks of this beginning of the season. Like, there are rumors that the Lakers won't even play him the first month. And I think Anthony Davis will need some rest too. And unfortunately for Anthony Davis, who's, this is not a hot take. He's probably one of the 5 best players in basketball right now. Unfortunately for Anthony Davis, I don't think he ever wins an MVP being on that LeBron, being with LeBron. I just don't think it happens.
No, LeBron makes Anthony Davis better. Therefore, Anthony Davis does not make LeBron better. So at the end of the day, LeBron would be the MVP guy, not Anthony Davis. So that's just kind of how it goes in the NBA. It sucks to suck. Too bad. Are we sleeping
on Kevin Durant at all as some kind of major factor?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the Nets are not going to make the playoffs.
Whoa!
The Nets, they look kind of sketchy this year. They look pretty sketchy. That coaching staff, I don't really know about it.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny?
What, Marcus?
I was just about to say I was going to make you mad with my hot take.
Okay, what's your hot take, Marcus?
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
The Nets are going to go to the NBA Finals this year.
No!
This year.
No way!
This year.
So we got both ends of the spectrum.
I told you me and Kyrie don't get along.
Huh?
Nah, Marcus is like crazy stuff. Marcus is like crazy stuff.
I'm coming
Marcus's first hot take was that the Colts were going to win the Super Bowl, and he doesn't play around.
With the best quarterback of the San Diego Chargers in 2008. Stop that. Marcus, look, I don't think Brooklyn's out of the playoffs by any stretch. If Kevin Durant is let's say he's only 75%, they're a playoff team because they've got some good players. But NBA Finals, I'm trying to figure out if you're being serious right now. Are you being serious?
It's my hot take. Look, Mr. Burkhart, hold on. But I want to hold that for a second because like my passion itself is coming out for a second. The Pacers for the 8th seed. Oh my gosh! The Pacers.
I'm a true blue Pacers fan, but listen, a whole bunch of East teams got better. I think in this podcast we've kind of slept on the Wizards a little bit.
Outside of Marcus.
The Eastern Conference Finals in Marcus's eyes are the Nets versus the Wizards. So let's keep that in perspective here. But the Wizards are going to be solid. Ian mentioning Bertans is really important to that as well. But you look at the East. Okay, let's take a look at the East. Miami Heat with the completely evil Jimmy Butler. They're going to be really good. They're coming back strong. Boston Celtics. It'll be interesting to see what Boston can do about their 5 position. But they're going to be really good. Toronto's in a weird spot with getting rid of their big men, but I also think it opens up the floor to get Pascal some more floor space.
Maybe he'll stop.
So there's 3 teams. Okay, so let's keep going. The Sixers are a playoff team, and I haven't even mentioned the Bucks yet. So we're at 5. Okay, the Wizards are absolutely 6. I think the Nets are in the playoffs, and that's 7. And I hadn't gotten to the Pacers yet. And I didn't even mention the Hawks. If I wanted to make a smoking hot take, I'd say the Pacers are on the bubble to make the playoffs. I don't actually think that. But if Brooklyn is, if Kyrie's 75% and if Kevin Durant's 75%, they got some other good players on that team, Jarrett Allen and whoever else, that's a playoff team. And so the East all of a sudden looks pretty stacked.
I, I, I don't know. It's
He
just
says I like it.
I definitely agree. Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat. They're definitely going to be good, and they definitely gotten better. Maybe the Raptors again, like you said, that's going to be a question mark. The Sixers, the thing about the Sixers is that it's just every year they seem to get better, but they still end up around only around the 5 or 6 seeds. So even last year we were the fourth seed and the Heat got the fifth and the Sixers got the sixth. So I mean it's hard to believe in the Sixers. And then we talked about the Nets. We're gonna pass on the next for a second. And then you
Is there
have
embarrassed already of your hot take? It's been 5 minutes.
and, and then we have the Orlando Magic on the eighth seed, and then we'll add in the Wizards and the Hawks. I agree those teams are going to be better, but I just feel like this Pacer team's too solid, it's too well rounded, and I feel like the new coaching position we've gotten better. That was going to lead to like you said, more player development. Our team's just gonna feel better because even towards the backside of that Pacers team, that's Oladipo might have left if we kept Nate McMillan
I
because
think he would have. I don't think he might have.
he
I think
really
he
would
would
have.
have.
Yeah, he really
Well,
would have left the Pacers.
and that's the other
So
factor that makes Pacers maybe a playoff bubble team. That look, it sounds like Vic and um, I have a couple weird personal ties to Victor, and he's a really good guy. So some of the rumors going around over the summer, I think, are either unfounded or misrepresented. That being said, there is no guarantee that he's a pacer after the trade deadline. There's no guarantee of that at all, and that also factors into that prediction.
It all
I
depends
mean,
on how the offense plays.
Yeah,
It all
I
depends.
personally I would have traded him. I mean, we j- I've just been seeing a lot of Pacer fans recently just hating on Victor Oladipo with all these rumors coming out and
yeah, I'm not there.
saying, like one of training. I'm no,
No,
he's I think people are not seeing like what's going on. You
they
know.
clearly haven't listened to his R&B album. The dude's a crooner. Why would you want to lose a crooner?
Exactly.
He's the
So
most
yeah.
he's the most important musical basketball player since world peace.
And
Well,
Shaq and his albums.
No, just for Indiana, just for the state of Indiana.
Oh, just for the state of Indiana. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because if we're expanding that conversation, and we've been at it for a while, and I'm old, I'm past my bedtime. But if we're adding some legitimacy to that conversation, the answer is Dame Lillard. Like Dame
Exactly.
Lillard is a legitimate
Dame
offensive
Dollar.
weapon.
Dame Dollar.
Yeah, Dame Dollar.
In fact,
Sorry.
maybe that's where they trade. Here's my Phantom Pacer trade. Give us McCollum for Oladipo straight up, and then Oladipo and Dame Lillard make a Grammy-nominated album where Oladipo's dropping the hooks. I buy that.
That's the way to
Hot
do
take.
it.
Lillard's music is the worst I've ever heard. Just kidding,
Okay,
I'm
all
not-
right.
That's
We're
just
stopping.
David.
We're
I'm
wrapping
kidding,
it
I'm
up.
kidding,
We're
I'm
And the
wrapping
man who
it
brought
up.
you
You're done.
Carmelo is magic.
Marcus, we're ending it on that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
There you
thank you all for coming and joining us on this interesting show. I hope y'all had a good time watching, and we'll see you next week.